Let's stay in the division. I have some news to pass along involving the Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko, the 25-year-old, playing 25 games, a .917 save percentage, with now a 5-year, $25 million contract.
Well, how many 25s is that?
Yeah, a lot of multiples of 5 here. The bottom line is this. Demko is their guy. We all know he shone last year in that playoff run lots. Clearly, Vancouver's saying, you know what? We believe he's the guy, so here's a financial commitment to making him our guy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the toughest thing to do with a young goaltender is you always kind of want to see them. It's great when these guys are breaking in and they're playing games, but there's always a safety net next to them, behind them. This year, Braden Holtby was brought in to be that. He's still got another year left, and that was a nice signing, but he's really only played 12 games. Wow. That safety net is already gone. Jim Benning has stepped in and said, I've seen enough. This guy can carry the cage. I don't need to see him anymore without that safety net. Thatcher Demko has been their guy. $5 million times 5 for a guy that's 25 is really good value, in my opinion, if he plays at this level. You're going to get a guy that will give you 917, particularly on this team this year who has struggled defensively. That's a great signing. If that drops, it's not so great. But I like the bet, personally, Stu. I like the process that Jim Benning went through to arrive at this decision, and I like the fact that there's a bigger fish out there to fry. Yeah. And his initials are EP, and he's coming up at the end of the year. So this sets them up in a position to have cost certainty there, defend against any teams that may potentially want to offer that guy. So now you can defend it because you've got plenty of cap space. I like the move.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with you. I think that, you know, it's almost a choice of that was dictated by the circumstances, though. As Markstrom is injured last 2 years going back, and as Demko is kind of the guy by default, showed well at an extremely positive postseason run. I thought played some really solid hockey for this group. But, you know, with Markstrom kind of, he's a free agent in that moment in time, it forces the hand a little bit. Demko made a whole lot of sense. I like that Holtby becomes kind of a safety valve of sorts. But I almost feel, setting all of the circumstance aside, if Benning had a different way or a different timeline to go about it, I wonder if he wouldn't want to have seen more of Thatcher Demko before he makes a 5 times 5 bet on Thatcher Demko. I feel like, based on the body of work, that's a little bit premature.
It's early.
I hope it works out.
It's early.
I hope it works. That's my only cautionary point. Because to this point, and as we evaluate this signing, he's got, I think, 62 games under his belt as an NHLer.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty
You're an arm guy, though.
Small body of work for 5 times 5.
You'll remember Dubnyk and you'll remember Schneider. Those guys also had a similar number of games when they got their contract. Mm-hmm. This is an aggressive bet. Let's face it. This is just math. You're trying to beat the pot. Yeah. I can go a couple more years, and he continues to build a resume like that, and maybe I get him at 3-3 for the next 2, but then I got to go 7-7-7 for the next 3. Do the math, Ed, man. You'll know that $31 million is not a good deal for a guy I just signed for 25. If things are as they believe you are. That's why you get paid to manage a club. You got to make these types of difficult calls. A lot of guys would have just played it safe and gone 3 times 3. No doubt about it. I like the call. I like Thatcher Demko. I think he's a real deal.
EP, good TV term for executive producer.
Yes,
You're, of course, referring to Elias Pettersson. In case anybody's...
Speaking of Vancouver, some good news coming out earlier about their net mining position. Thatcher Demko agreeing to a long-term extension. We see 5 years, $25 million for the BC Eagle.
Yep. Nice to see. Nice to see. Good for him. It's been a long road. You mentioned BC, Boston College. He was really good there, outstanding there. We got to see his progression playing in the American League in Utica. They did a nice job with him. Brian Johnson and the crew helping to develop him there. And now their goalie coach, Ian Clark, has done such an amazing job with Demko. We saw him last year in the bubble. He was excellent there in the postseason. Really opened a lot of eyes, and he's really progressed to become the #1 goalie in Van this year. 2 years Rupper away from unrestricted free agency. At first glance, I looked at this. I thought it was maybe a little bit light, probably by year 4 and 5. But you probably weigh that for him. Yeah. By the fact that he hasn't played that many games, so this is a nice deal. It's a fair market deal for him. This is a Freddie Anderson deal that Freddie Anderson took to go to Toronto, if you recall, 5 times 5.
Yeah, and this is kind of an example of what this game is as far as in those positions of GM, and it's projecting, and they're projecting. And he doesn't have a long runway of stats as far as playing in the National Hockey League. We know this. But he's been really good when he's been playing, and he's shown that he can be very good. So it's making those projections, putting your bets on the table, and rolling forward with it. So those are things that they believe in Thatcher Demko, and up to this point, I don't see why they wouldn't.
And now with the goalie market, too. Earlier in the offseason, we saw Matt Murray with a 6.25 per season in Ottawa. And then subsequently to that, we saw Jordan Binnington in St. Louis, 6x6. And now you slot him in here at around 5.5 excuse me.
The only difference is
rings.
Rings.
Yeah, right. Well, totally.
One has two, and one has one.
Totally.
But
you're
they're
buying
a little
years.
bit more money. And
yes.
So what that's my point. These are those gutsy moves, and I like this deal.
Yeah.
I do. I like Thatcher Demko, but these are those gutsy ones where you got to project. And I always say it to you, you got to project and you got to protect.
Yep.
You project your guys, you protect them, boom, you're good. You make a bad call, you might be losing your job at some point.
Boom, you're gone.
Yeah.
And if he gets those rings, that $5 million per season looks pretty darn cheap and pretty darn.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
By years 3, 4, 5, this could be a steal of a deal.